Welcome to this series of DNS terminologies. So, in this series, we will discuss everything you need to know about domain name servers and overall different types of records of the domains. So, let's get started with the basics of DNS. So, first of all, what is a domain name? A domain name is basically an understandable way of taking users to your websites. It's more like an address to your web server. So let's say you have a domain called abc.com. So you want the domain name to act as the address for your specific server. So the servers can have complex IP addresses which might be difficult to remember, but domain names basically provide you an a medium to point to the address quite easily. So, domain names is something that a person can remember. It's a friendly way of going to a specific website. Next comes the question, where can the domain be purchased? So, any domain can be purchased from a registrar who can basically sell and register domains. So there are a bunch of registrars that you can utilize. For instance, just go ahead and look for get domain. You will be able to see that there are a lot of domain name providers like Namecheap, BigRock, Google, GoDaddy, Hostinger, and a bunch of them. I will also place a certain links for you to go ahead and purchase the domains if you want to. So domain name can be purchased from a lot of vendors. It's all about getting a good deal from the right provider. Every domain has an associated DNS, that is a domain name server. So when you say that abc.com points to a specific IP address, who stores it? It is the domain name server, the DNS, that basically maintains the record that this particular domain points to a particular IP address. So domain name servers are basically a means of telling the information about the domain, whether it is abc.com or whether it is some subdomain like a subdomain.abc.com. So it can be any domains associated with the particular purchased domain. Okay, so let's get deeper into what a DNS is. So let's first start with an example. So I have a domain purchased here, that is smarterbrains.in, purchased from GoDaddy. So as you can see that GoDaddy itself provides a way of configuring my name servers. So by default, when you purchase any domain on GoDaddy or any other domain provider, you will see that the name servers will be of GoDaddy. Next, when you host a particular site for this particular domain, you need to maybe point it to the hosting provider, which in my case is Hostinger. So as you can see that my domain smarterbrains.in is hosted on Hostinger. So it tells me that I need to change my name server records to ns1.dnsparking.com and ns2.dnsparking.com. So this is how I point my GoDaddy domain to a third party hosting provider where the domains can be then further linked to different IP addresses. So let's say I told that at the rate means the root domain points to a particular IP address, right? So this is how I can basically utilize a domain name server for basically pointing my domain to a specific IP address. So now let us understand how the DNS is actually resolved. The domain name is actually resolved. So when you type smarterbrains.in, it basically is sent to your ISP or the DNS resolver. So the DNS resolver, what it does is it talks to multiple servers around the world and tries to find out where the smarterbrains.in domain name server is actually located. So it first of all goes to GoDaddy, which tells that the name server is actually on Hostinger. So it will go and check with Hostinger to finally find out that the actual server is located on a specific IP address. So finally, it will then go to a particular server. So it's like, let's say there is a query from smarterbrains.in, it will go to the DNS resolver. Sorry, it will then be bounced off to GoDaddy. Again, GoDaddy says that it's Hostinger. Back to Hostinger, where Hostinger tells that okay, the domain name has these records. So it will then validate that okay, is it a particular IP address? Yes. Now go to this specific server over here. So this is how it will actually resolve any particular domain name. So this is all about what a domain is and how the DNS works. We will go more in depth in the next video.